Hi everyone, welcome to another drum tutorial. Today we have a request from Little Scarlet 101. It's going to be song 2, it's going to be Blur, and it's going to be Dave Rowntree on drums for most of it. Well, all of it, with a few additional drum parts as well. More on that later. You will find a drum transcription in full on my website, dukegrooves.com. Completely free of charge, free to download. You'll also find all the chapter markers in the subscription down below. If you're looking for a drum performance of this, I've got a cover which I'll link to as well in the description, and there's a drums only for guitarists, bassists, or drummers if you want to hear it without the actual track. So, without further ado, let's get cracking. Right then, one thing to note about this track is that on the intro and the verses, it's not just Dave Rowntree playing. It's actually a couple of people playing on top of each other. Phrasing. It's actually a couple of drummers recorded at the same time. So being able to play this as one drummer is technically impossible unless you've got a couple of extra limbs, maybe. So what I'm going to teach is what I play live. I think it emphasizes the most important points of the groove. The main differences between them is that one guy's playing on the rim of a tom and the other guy is playing on the hi-hat. Now, if you're playing the rim of a tom underneath the hi-hat, you're mostly going to be hearing the hi-hat. There's just little clicks underneath. I've tried playing it live with the rim of the tom, which is what Dave Rowntree actually does live, by the way. I don't feel it cuts through enough to really make the emphasis that happens on the recording. So I've always gone for the hi-hat, and that's the part I'm going to be teaching now. There are some other cool ideas you can use where you play open-handed on the hi-hat and you're going to be bouncing from the rim of the tom to the snare, to the rack tom, to the snare, to the floor tom. That's more of like kind of a new breed style of playing. And if you know how to do that stuff, take it away. You're probably not going to be watching this tutorial if you already know how to do that kind of thing anyway. So for the beginners out there that are looking for a nice simple track to do, this is a great one for you. We're going to be using the hi-hat. We're going to be using a couple of crossover ideas on here. And we're going to be going down to the floor tom here as well. In fact, we're going to be going down like that. So let's do it. Intro. Right, as I said before, the intro's got two drummers, but this is the drum beat we're going to be looking at that I've got transcribed. So we've got a 2-bar groove, and it's going to go like this. This is our 2-bar phrase, and we're going to use this on the intro and the verses as well. So I'm going to break this down for you. We've got 8th notes on the hi-hat, and we're going to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The main groove without the tom parts in it is going to go like this. So the first bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Kick drum on the 1, the 3 and the and of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The second bar is going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we've got the kick drums on the 1, the and of 1, and the and of 2, and the and of 3. Wake up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's what we want. Right. Once you've got that, and I do recommend playing those 2 bars round a few times so they'd sound like this. Once you've got those down, we're going to add some toms on certain notes, and I'm going to go through that now. So, on the first bar, we've got a rack tom at the end. When the drum beats are being recorded, the multi-track versions, it's very easy to go like this because the guy's playing on the rim. However, because we're on the hi-hat, we've got 2 options. We can either go underneath like that, which I find a little bit awkward personally. I've got, I uncrossed my hands on this to get this note, and this is actually an idea that came from one of my students. So Paul, thank you very much for this. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So all it is, your hands are still striking at the same time. Rather than that, we're going to go and uncross them like this, okay? So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Second bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you think about it, when you do this one, you're kind of doing a similar motion by uncrossing your hands, but they are moving to different sound sources. So like I said, this is going to emphasize the most important features of the groove that's heard on the recording, so that when you play it live, you still get all that nice feel from the hi-hat. Right, that's going to play out for the first 8 bars. So you've got 4 rounds of that as the intro. And then we're going to kick into that big old riff. Right then, about 15 seconds through this track, we're going to hit that massive riff. And we're going to be on open hi-hats, there's going to be crash cymbals, and we're going to negate any of this like crossing over business, okay? So, something to note with the hi-hats on these, he's using what's kind of known as a molar technique. Some people do this naturally, some people have to train this. Whichever one you are is absolutely fine, but there are some ways you can get around it if you haven't got time to learn this straight away. The molar technique is basically getting 2 shots for 1, where you strike down with your riff, and as you pull up from this part here, you get a second note, a second quieter note. So you get that kind of thing going. There are videos that better explain this and go into much more detail. If you want the god of technique videos, buy a DVD by Jojo Mayer called The Secret Weapons of the Modern Drummer Volume 1. That will give you every technique possible with your hands, and as far as I'm aware, there's no better thing on the market for it. If you have trouble with this, everything that you play with regards to the riff or the choruses on this, just play quarter notes. It's much better to have this and play quarters than it is to have every 8th note played loud. It changes the feel of it entirely, because what we actually want is this sound. And to the untrained ear, you will just hear quarter notes anyway, okay? So let's break this down. We got a crash cymbal on beat 1. We're gonna miss the second note, which will be on the and, just to give us time to come over to beat 2 there. So rather than going 1 and 2, we're gonna go 1 and 2. We're then going to play the same kick drum pattern, at least for the first 2 bars that we find in the verses, which was 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's going to sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now on beat 4, we're going to swap those hi-hats for a crash cymbal. This is where you get the woo-hoo, and we're going to accent those. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Bring us on to our second phrase, the third bar. It's going to be exactly the same as the first 2 bars, but we're going to double kick right at the beginning. So rather than the 1 and 2, we're going to do 1 and 2. And the rest of those 2 bars are exactly the same. We'll repeat those second 2 bars, 3 and 4, for 5, 6, 7 and 8, and that will complete our riff at the beginning. So the whole thing is going to sound like this. Just one more note on the molar side of things. If you are practicing this and trying to get that second quieter note, one of the harder bits about playing this groove is being able to hit your kick drum loud while you play a quiet note, because you're used to hammering them both together. So slow it right down and practice that. We're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's going to feel really weird at first, but give it some time, give it some practice. It will feel natural by the end of it. Right, verse 1. Verse 1 is exactly the same as the intro, except we've got a crash cymbal right at the beginning where we've come out of the big riff. So this happens in about 30 seconds. And rather than starting the song like that, we're going to start it like that instead. Right, onto the chorus. Chorus number 1, exactly the same as the big riff, but we're going to have an extended part of it. So once you've played all your woohoo crash cymbals and you've played that all the way through, you're going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars in. So you're going to be going. At this point, we're going to simplify the beat. We're just going to have double kicks on each one. On the 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and going through. So we're going to have 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And then we've got a build-up bar where we're going to hit. It could well have a snare on beat 1, but it's not audible to me there. I think the snare comes in on the end of 2, but it's a build up basically. So the snares are going to gradually get louder, and we're going to be going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now notice on the hi-hat, we're moving away from that molar stroke. We're hitting every single note, but we're doing what's known as a crescendo. Gradually getting louder to build it up, and we'll do that throughout the entire bar. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 2 and 4 and. So that whole line is going to be like that. Notice there's a crash at the beginning of each of those bars, and we're missing the and of 1 to come back onto here. It's just something that's very common in drums where you'll miss that second 8th note because it's easier to kind of come across like that than it is to do that at speed. We're then going to play 4 more bars to finish off this chorus. And we're going to have a crash cymbal at the beginning of every 2. So you have 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Which brings us on to verse 2. Verse 2 is exactly the same as all the other ones. Something worth noting is that they sort of fade out this multi-layered drum beat at the end of the verse when everything starts kicking off again. The drum track is there. It's just kind of faded out a bit, so don't be concerned about that. I would play it all the way through to the end. Chorus 2, exactly the same as chorus 1. Up until you've got the build up, and then we're going to go on to the outro. This is a really nice short drum tutorial. So the outro of the song, which happens at about 1 minute 43, is basically another round of the woohoo section. So we've got a double kick at the beginning, a slightly different thing at the end as well. So the outro is going to go. And then we're going to double up all the way to the end. And we're going to choke the cymbal on the last note. So there's last 2 bars before the choke, bars 63 and 64. Rather than 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, we're going to just do double kicks all the way to the end. So we're going to have 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And then choking your cymbal at the end, which is simply hitting it and grabbing it. Thumb on top, fingers underneath. That's the whole tune. Nice simple song. Song 2, last 2 minutes 2 seconds. Got a feeling I might have used 2 pages for the transcription. Yeah, I did. So yeah, very aptly named. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. You'll see some videos dotted around for the drums only and the drum cover of this, so check those out. They've also got chapter markers, so if you're following along, I had a suggestion from another guy that he wanted everything played out so that you could kind of link to those. So I think that's a really good idea. So I've got that on the drums only, and all the chapter markers are going to be laid out there as well. DukeGrooves.com for the transcription again. And yeah, that concludes this drum tutorial. I'll see you again another time. Take care.